Questions raised on foreign companies acquiring businesses reserved for nationals. Nautilus Minerals provides update for the world's first deep-sea mine. And ongoing eviction case in Leh gets a new lawyer.
This is the National EMTV News with Meribah Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us for Tuesday's news. Prime Minister Peter ONeill says there should be restrictions on the establishment of businesses reserved for Papua New Guineans. Mr. ONeill stated that concerned authorities should step up in ensuring reserved businesses for nationals are not taken over by expatriates. He was responding to questions raised by Mosby Northwest MP Semekere Morauta in question time in Parliament today.
This was the first question without notice, which was raised when Parliament resumed for 2018. Semekere raised a number of questions based on the influx of Chinese involvement in the construction sector, the amount of money the PNG government is borrowing from China, and the increase of Chinese businessmen conducting businesses which should be reserved for locals. Recently, there has been an increase in the number of trading centers established in Central Province, which are owned and operated by Asians. On recent trips, EMTV News noticed a number of Asian shops along the Hiritano and Magi highways and in Sogeri. In response, the Prime Minister explained that while many may criticize the government for Chinese involvement in developing the country, Papua New Guineans must understand that China is fast becoming a powerful economy. He added that while authorities have to ensure such businesses are reserved for locals, locals on the other hand are leasing their land to Chinese businessmen.
These are things that we have to restrict right across the country. Mr. Speaker, as a former shop operator myself, I know how tough it is to do business in that industry, Mr. Speaker, and it is not easy. Papua New Guineans need support, and that is our SME policy and some of the support that we are extending to the National Development Bank. It is aimed at trying to give concessional credit lines to Papua New Guineans so they can be competitive in that field. So, Mr. Speaker, I can assure the Honourable Member for Mosby Northwest that we are doing everything possible to making sure that Papua New Guineans' interest is paramount.
Parliament resumes tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thakla Gunga, National EMTV News.
11 of the 15 refugees who came to Port Moresby for medical checkups have returned to Manus. Provincial Police Commander Chief Inspector David Yapu said the 11 refugees were received by immigration officials when they arrived at Momote Airport yesterday. They were later transported under police escort to Hillside House, where they are being accommodated. The other 4 have refused to return and are still in Port Moresby. Nautilus Minerals, developers of the Solwara 1 project, have provided an update on the status of the world's first deep-sea mine. Company President and CEO Mike Johnston was in Port Moresby this week and presented the updates to Mining Minister Johnson Tuke. Among issues discussed were the effects of the project on the seafloor environment. Since being granted a mining license in 2008 for the world's first deep-sea mining project, Nautilus Minerals says the Solwara 1 project may well commence production in the first quarter of 2019. Nautilus President and CEO Mike Johnston presented an update to Mining Minister Johnson Tuke in Port Moresby this week. He outlined developments so far, particularly in regards to construction of the project's production tools, riser and lifter systems, and the production vessel. When completed and in place, the Solwara 1 project will see gold and copper being extracted from depths of 1,600 meters in a 1 square kilometer area over a 3-year period. The Solwara 1 project has been met with skepticism, especially from environmental groups, NGOs as well as churches. Much of their concerns around the effects that the project may have on the deep-sea environment and potentially on fish stocks within the Bismarck Sea, an area known for its rich tuna stocks. Whilst Nautilus has acknowledged these concerns, they have assured the country's mining minister that any effects on the environment will be minimal given the project's deep water location as well as the technologies being used for the project itself.
The final piece in the puzzle for us is that we have agreed with the regulators and the provincial government, the New Ireland provincial government, that there will be independent monitoring. Yeah? And there's some very good international groups out there who are capable of working with the regulators and the company to do that monitoring. And we'll be suggesting names to the government for that role going forward. But I'm pretty confident that we'll get agreement on who that will be.
Mr. Johnston also assured those present that Nautilus was being monitored by relevant government authorities to ensure that environmental risks would be minimized to protect the environment.
The project has criteria it has to perform to, and if it doesn't perform to those criteria and is outside of them, in breach, the way the system works in Papua New Guinea is that we'll get a cease and restraint order from the regulator. If we're in breach, we get told to stop. And it's a hell of an incentive for a company not to get a order from the government to stop doing what you're legally entitled to do.
Once the company is progressing to complete what it has to do in order to be mining ready, the government as well have done what we have to do, apart from the granting of the mining license and the environmental permit. There are all these other bits and pieces that we need to tie in as well. So between the course of this year, I'm very confident all of that will be done. Within government ourselves, we would find a way to be able to coexist and to complement each other in order to see the delivery of the ship.
According to Mining Minister Johnson Tuke, despite criticism from various sectors of society, the decision by government to allow Nautilus to engage in the world's first seabed mining project is one that has been thought through, with the government committed to going ahead with it.
If it's got to be the first in the world, let it be. There may be one or two outside potential threats that we can encounter, because we wanted to create a history and record to set it right.
Here with National EMTV News, we go for a break and we'll be back with the day's top stories after these messages. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The capabilities of the Papua New Guinea Fire Service has again been questioned on the floor of Parliament. West New Britain Governor Sasindran Muthuvel queried the current state of this government agency. Minister responsible, Kevin Isufu, says a plan is being developed to overhaul the functions of the PNG Fire Service.
Following the recent fires in West New Britain and around the country, Governor Sasindran Muthuvel queried the current capacity of the fire service and how responsible it can be in serving people. Governor Muthuvel says this problem is not new, with many investigations by the fire service being watered down, with many not made publicly.
Me worry the solo one situation blow this la fire stations throughout the countries. I'm sure situation lo algata hap me looking fire lo le, fire lo kimbe, fire lo kokopo, algata hap. So must be big plus city. Me ari me got tupla water tank tasol, tupla fire truck tasol me stop.
Over the past 5 years, the fire service has come under criticism by the public and business houses. And with APEC nearing, Governor Muthuvel is concerned how the fire service will respond during emergencies.
Suppose some kind heavy incident come up, so how you mean by addressing? Natu also, me no sabe whether department appropriate department lo hold him this la fire related fire stations and fire services.
Minister responsible Kevin Isufu says it has been a challenge for the fire service department to deal with the widespread fire occurrence around the country. Minister Isufu says a plan is progressing to review the responsibilities and capacity of the fire service department.
As a responsible government, we are taking necessary steps to addressing fire as a very important issue, matter for the government.
According to the former head of fire service, the department has remained underfunded. However, Minister Isifu is confident all that will be addressed.
The government is set to getting and refitting fire trucks all around our fire stations in the country. We are ready to get 22 new fire trucks to replace and refit the existing rundown trucks around the country.
A ministerial statement will be made publicly with reports of fire investigations for the past 3 months. Jack Lopave Jr., National EMTV News.
This week marks the 76th anniversary of the Tall and Waitavalo plantation massacres in East New Britain province. The anniversary was celebrated by the Rabaul Historical Society at the Lark Force Montevideo Maru Memorial in Rabaul on Sunday. In February 1942, the Allied troops retreated until they were surrounded by Japanese soldiers at Tall Plantation in Pomio. About 160 soldiers were massacred during this final encounter. The plantation massacres remained a significant piece of World War II history in the Pacific region. The Rabaul Historical Society believes such events must not be forgotten and thank the people of Tall for their efforts to continuing to commemorate those who lost their lives during this atrocity. Port Moresby Police have established a unit that will deal directly with crimes involving members of the Diplomatic Corps. Despite the rare cases of reported crimes committed involving members of the Diplomatic Corps, an office was set up today. Officers that will be working in this new unit are from the NCD Task Force team based at Saraga.
Representatives from the Korean and Japanese embassies and the British High Commission were present to witness the launching of this unit. Specific duties officers in this unit will carry out include close protection, escorts, and investigations involving crimes committed against members of the Diplomatic Corps.
We don't want them going to the police station and standing in queue and going through the same process where our national go through. We've given some form of respect, protocol in it one. That's why we're going to use this office as their base for them to help them with attending to the complaints.
So could you confirm?
In November last year, the spouse of an employee of the U.S. Embassy had accused police for robbing him. Thorough police investigations later revealed that there were no police involvements. Because of such allegations, a unit is now set up to focus directly on such incidents.
The threat of breaking into certain embassy, they call them. So yeah, they'll do normal police work, but dedicated to those group.
While the office is still in its initial stage, police are looking at expanding the unit. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
There was some confusion today at the University of Papua New Guinea as first-year students turned up for registration. The Department of Higher Education had earlier published a list of students selected for studies at UPNG. However, the university also had its own list. Adelaide Sirox-Kari has the details.
More than 1,000 first-year students are expected to register at UPNG this year. Father Jan Juba, the Secretary for Higher Education, was amongst other dignitaries who welcomed the first-year students this morning. But while the students are all excited to begin their first year at the university, there are pressing issues ahead, such as 2 separate lists for accepted students published in the dailies. One list from the Office of Higher Education was done online, while the list from UPNG was done manually.
The input, the 2 lists differ by this. We consider our quota, our admission criteria, and there is a third input, which is, did the student apply to UPNG? In the system generated, there were only 2 inputs. The quota and the admission criteria of our programs. We then issued letters on the basis of our list. So then this creates a situation where those who were not selected by UPNG, they would be on the higher education list.
Acting Vice Chancellor Vincent Malaibe says priority will be given to students they selected.
The Secretary has raised it with us, so I will be meeting with the deans to look at that issue.
David Kuma is a parent affected by this decision. His son, Sweden Kuma, completed Year 12 at Port Moresby National High School and applied to UPNG. He was selected under the OHE, but his name did not appear on the list at UPNG.
Most of the students, including my son, has got a cut-off mark that is required for the university here, and that's where we're coming in. So I am appealing to the Vice Chancellor to look into it and advise the Dean, in particular, the affected, especially the Business and Humanity area department, to look into it and then see if they can accept those students to study for this year.
Another issue was boarding. The acting Vice Chancellor said the university will be using a new registration system, which means accommodation will be offered on a first-come, first-served basis, regardless of whether or not you are on the TESE scholarship.
That means 2017 and back, they had to pre-allocate. They had to pre-allocate rooms, and so we changed it, because pre-allocation holds up rooms when the student doesn't pay up, but there are others who are waiting, and so they can't even move in, even though they can pay. And so this year, the students are required to apply online or go to the web page and they download the form. And so it's now by application. And it's processed. They will be advised that yes, you got a room in this dorm and you pay this.
Adelaide Xerox Kari National, EMTV News.
Divine Word University in Madang commenced its academic year with the registration of its new and continuing students this week. First and second year students have already registered, with continuing third and fourth year students today. Its students will start their orientation on Thursday, with the formal announcement of the start of the academic year this Friday. The formal announcement will be made during a dedication mass at the university campus. Among this year's highlight for the DWU graduate program is the university's Pioneers Bachelors of Medicine, Bachelor Surgery. This will be their third year of a 5-year program. The university will also enroll its third batch of first-year students this year. Lectures for DWU will commence next Monday. Here with National EMTV News, we go for a break and be back with more on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back to National EMTV News. Papua New Guinea's very own produced dairy fresh milk is now available for tasting at specific shops in Port Moresby. Today was the first day Alima milk was made available to the general public. Our crew visited some of these shops today.
Today, the first sample testing was conducted at Stop and Shop Waigani Central. Once these products reach the market, it will be sold at half the price of what fresh milk is currently being sold for.
We need to keep some secrets here. Follow us on our Facebook page. Tomorrow we'll be at Harbour City, and next day Vision City, Waterfront, Boroko, all the supermarkets around town.
Jori Korowa, a customer, gave an honest opinion of what he thought about the milk.
Recommend people to buy this just to support the economy and the production in PNG.
Alima Dairy Farm, which was redeveloped last year, has finally made the first PNG-made dairy fresh milk available for sampling and testing. Kila Gege, advisor of agriculture in Central Province, is quite excited for this product finally coming available.
So fresh. Yeah, it didn't come on the ship. Right? Yes. Yeah.
From the farm on
so
my land,
fresh, yeah.
To the
just an hour's drive.
The dairy business is not common in the country, but livestock officer Michael Icy says the government should be supportive and help create more local production.
In cereal growing, especially corn, sorghum, and other pastures, we can produce this milk.
Lilian Supera Kinea, National EMTV News.
The Chinese government has presented medical equipment worth 600,000 kina to the Port Moresby General Hospital. Hospital Chief Executive Dr. Umesh Gupta says the equipment will now boost the level of services provided. Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to Papua New Guinea, Xu Bing, officiated at the ceremony this morning.
Ambassador Xu Bing signed the certificates to officially hand the equipment over to the hospital management. In addition, Ambassador Xu also signed an agreement for the 9th China medical team who will be arriving in the country in April.
At the request of the PNG government, China has sent 8 medical teams to work here. So that includes altogether 80 consultant doctors and supporting staff. During their stay in this country in the past 15 years, the Chinese doctors have kept a close cooperation with the hospital and working very hard.
These medical teams have been in PNG since 2002. They have worked with over 10,000 patients with different medical conditions. The hospital's chief executive says the equipment will enhance the health services provided.
Chinese medical team who are here year after year, they provide a valuable service to the people of Papua New Guinea. And not only a service, but skill transfer and ongoing exchange of ideas and mutual benefit that this visits and the team that come along with that.
With Port Moresby General, a leading referral hospital in the country, Chief Surgeon and Specialized Urologist Dr. Osborne Liko stated that this equipment will cause great improvement in the output of services provided, a service that has been lacking for the past years.
We call endoscopic equipment. They're very critical and very essential part of the medical equipment to look into the body organs. Very delicate, expensive, of course, but very valuable and equipment that we need for diagnose our patients that come to our hospital with all sort of medical and the surgical issues from the mouth all the way down to the stomach.
Ambassador Xu says the occasion has strengthened the relationship between PNG and China. Lilian Sopera Kinea, National EMTV News.
To Morobe Province now, and an ongoing eviction case in Leh has highlighted how difficult it is to get legal help. The Tigia family, who have been fighting for their home since 2008, have gone to 8 different lawyers to represent them in court in a period of 9 years. This year will be the 10th year fighting for the property, and they've now engaged their 9th lawyer.
This year will be 10 years since the Tigis in Leh began the court battle for their home. Through these 10 years, the family has engaged 8 different lawyers to represent them in court. They have now engaged a 9th lawyer. The Tigis court battle began in 2008 when a Richard Wapua obtained a court order to evict the family, claiming he had the title to their home. The house was bought by the Tigis' late father, Tigi Abyss, in 1999 through the government sell-off scheme. They were still waiting to be given the title by the National Housing Corporation when they were first evicted. In 2008, they engaged a private lawyer. Between 2009 and 2016, they were represented by the Public Solicitor's Office with 5 different lawyers attending to their cases. The judge dismissed their case in 2016 because it was taking too long. Since then, they've engaged 2 more lawyers and have gone back to the district court to start a new case in relation to the fight for their home. Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Leh.
Turning overseas now, they're calling it the scariest day on Wall Street in years. America's biggest companies plunged. The index that measures them suffered its biggest drop in history. That has sent jitters around the world.
It was a particularly dreadful day
on the world's stock markets.
It was a historic dive that sparked panic around the world.
Australian shares have plunged this morning following a bloodbath on Wall Street.
And now the long, smooth, record-setting ride on Wall Street is over.
Everybody thought the market was going to keep going up. It was never going to go down. And so days like this catch people off guard.
The Dow Jones briefly plunged nearly 1,600 points, the biggest drop in a single day on record. It rebounded slightly, but at the closing bell was still down by more than 1,100 points, its worst day in 6 years.
Because the Dow has been going up so much in the last 9 years since the financial crisis, it's far less of a percentage loss, which is how you really need to see it.
This is a very big shift in investor sentiment. So what's been driving the stock market for a long time now is a conviction that interest rates were going to remain permanently, or at least for a long time, very low.
But a report out of the US on Friday suggests they could be about to rise, and that's what led to the rapid sell-off. And in the age of automated electronic trading, a small sell-off can easily trigger something much bigger.
So imagine this. There are a bunch of orders that are pooled, and when the Dow crosses below 26,000, sell this. Or when it's 25.5, sell this. And so what can happen is you get an acceleration of the selling on the downside.
Today's drop occurred while US President Donald Trump was giving a speech about his tax plan. Halfway through, broadcasters began breaking away to sound the alarm.
We're interrupting for breaking news.
So what does it mean for the NZX?
Certainly our stock market here will open in a pretty tough way because it's got catch-up to do.
But for investors here in New Zealand, especially those with KiwiSaver, the advice is don't freak out.
These are longer-term investments, so it's well worth hanging in there.
Hanging in there too will be Wall Street traders who are bracing for another day of uncertainty.
Russia and Syria are conducting a brutal revenge for the shooting down of a Russian plane by anti-government rebels last week. More than 150 airstrikes have been carried out.
Sunday night, and the town of Marat al-Nu'man in Idlib province is burning after dozens of airstrikes by Russian and Syrian regime fighter bombers. This is the last province in rebel hands. So the government of Bashar al-Assad and its Russian sponsors are determined to regain control, whatever the cost to civilians. Last night, they bombed the hospital 4 times. The weakest and most vulnerable had to be evacuated. But where will they go? There are no more incubators in Idlib, nowhere safe and warm for these premature babies and those born small and fragile. Some may survive, others not. The head of the UN Children's Fund in Syria says the world is becoming numb to the killing of children. Other patients were also rushed to safety, if there is such a thing in Idlib. He curses Assad's father, Putin's father, the men he blames for the desperation all around. 20 miles to the north in Sarakeb, medics are trying to stop people's skin from burning, but the worst damage is inside, because the bombs dropped on Saturday night appeared to contain chlorine, which burns the respiratory tract. So much for the ban on chemical weapons. Chlorine isn't illegal in itself, but it is if used against people like this.
We were in the Eastern District when the helicopters attacked. When we heard the sound of a small explosion, we thought the barrel bomb had failed to detonate. But one of the guys went outside to check and he smelled chlorine and warned us it was nearby.
Chemical weapons spread fear and panic. That's the point. Tens of thousands of people have fled Sarakeb in the last few days. The rebels who control Idlib had their moment of triumph on Friday when they shot down a Russian bomber using an anti-aircraft weapon. The pilot ejected, but died.
Heavily wounded with fighters within several dozen meters, he blew himself up with a grenade.
Dozens of rebel groups have congregated in Idlib, some allied to al-Qaeda, some not. The remnants of a revolution that failed and a war that was hijacked by outside powers. Last night in Idlib city, the civil defense force known as White Helmets dug into a bombed 6-story apartment block. There was life, there was hope, Allahu Akbar! They rescued a little girl. But what will happen to her in the next few weeks as the regime and the Russians push to retake Idlib using maximum force and whatever weapons they like?
Back home, and local Papua New Guinea businessman Stephen Kilage has started a program for local and aspiring businessmen and women seeking advice and planning on how to start and manage a small business. Known as the Kilage Mentor Program, it discusses business plans, including setting goals, failures and successes of business and habits. Goduneki with more.
Your mindset and things that are going to hinder your dreams. So you gotta...
As a successful businessman, Stephen Kilage is now giving back to the community by sharing his experiences with other business-minded nationals. Owning a few businesses, including the Red Rock, Stephen Kilage is helping new business owners with strategies and opportunities to grow their businesses by starting to make better decisions and guidelines to follow in order to achieve their goals. With the tough economic times having an impact on business houses, Mr. Kilage says basics of savings and wise spending is crucial.
The Kilage Mentor Group is especially to help young businessmen and women in Port Moresby. A lot of young people are kind of distracted from getting into their dreams. So basically, today was more talking about getting rid of all the distractions in their life, setting goals, targets, and visions, and just hitting them. A lot of the young business people have a lot of social things that are blocking them, so personal issues, a lot of family and one-talk issues that basically this covers to help them get out of that.
He says in order to run a business, individuals should have a vision and plan ahead towards their goal.
Say that anyone can do it. It just takes a vision and working towards that vision. And don't let your one-talks, don't hang out drinking beer, doing other social things that will affect you from getting your goal. If you're determined and you really want to do it, you're going to do it. Nothing's stopping you. And that's what I'm telling the group, the people in the Kilage Mentor Group. Nothing's stopping you from getting where you have to go.
And upcoming businesswoman Mona Lisa Paul says learning basic ideas and challenges that a business can go through is worth learning.
What I've learned from being on the program is to save like your life depends on it, and to be disciplined as well. So if you save, you don't touch your savings. And another thing, family and friends may get in your way, but you have to learn to say no.
We've got to support our businesswomen. Like, it's good to have 3 young businesswomen. I see they're dedicated and really want to see them succeed in their life with them and the partner.
She says, as a businesswoman, learning to make sacrifices is hard, but it's something every businessman and women will come across. Godwin Eki, National MTV News.
Here with National MTV News, we go for a break now. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. With less than 2 months to go before the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games, PNG Olympic Committee has identified 10 sports to compete at the Games. Individual federations are still under the process of selecting top athletes through PNG OC's selection committee.
Swimming, triathlon, boxing, athletics, table tennis, lawn bowls, squash, shooting, rugby sevens and weightlifting are 10 codes that will see Team PNG athletes competing come the Commonwealth Games. It is estimated nearly 40 athletes will be sent to attend the Games. Swimming has selected top 5 swimmers who are all in training overseas, while boxing has about 6 athletes. Athletes for track and field events will see a mixture of competitive runners, both overseas based and from PNG. Table tennis, shooting and lawn bowls are also preparing well for the event. In the meantime, in the lead up to the Games, PNG Olympic Committee will host several fundraising events, such as the Trukai Fun Run to generate funds for athletes travelling in April to Gold Coast. This Thursday, PNG Olympic Committee and Trukai will launch the Trukai Fun Run as part of the fundraiser for corporate and individual organizations to purchase Trukai t-shirts. Team PNG athletes will have a team bonding session in Port Moresby before the team travels to Gold Coast to attend the Games. 2018 Gold Coast Commonwealth Games will start with an opening ceremony held on the 4th of April at the Metricon Stadium, followed by the Games from the 5th to the 15th. Godwin Eki, National, EMTV Sports.
To cricket now, and the Hebo PNG Barramundis now have new guidance through the form of a new coach, John Dawes. Dawes is not new to the team. He was the national consultant leading up to the Barras World Cricket match against Scotland, in which the Barramundis won. An experienced international cricketer and coach, Dawes' latest success was bringing the Adelaide Strikers to compete in the Big Bash League. He is now putting the Barras to work as they prepare for the training camp in Brisbane. The team departs this Friday. To football, and the PNG champions Toti City Dwellers left for Vanuatu this morning with high hopes of faring well in their third appearance at the OFC Championships on Saturday. They will kick off their campaign against Cook Islands Tupapa Marearenga in Pool A. Games to follow will see them taking on Vanuatu's Knuckleton FC and later Fiji's Bar FC. Coach Peter Gunemba said the team will rely on homegrown senior players in the likes of skipper Raymond Gunemba, Nigel Dabinyaba, Emmanuel Simon, Jacob Saboa and Ronald Wersen for their campaign. Having prepared well in the last 4 rounds of the NSL, the Dwellers are quietly confident. And we'll have more of Trukai Sports after these messages. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To Rugby Union, it has been Hamilton Sevens to forget for New Zealand after they were forced to sit on 4th place.
To make matters worse, the Kiwis were denied at their home tournament by Australia, who chipped away at New Zealand's half-time lead. The home side's ill discipline in the second half then costing them dearly following the final hooter. Well, the Aussies taking out the bronze medal 8-7.
And that's it for Trukai Sports. We'll have your weather details for the next 24 hours when we come back.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
I'll look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Port Moresby, fine although cloudy at times with a top temperature of 30 degrees. 30 degrees as well expected for Daru and Kerma with some showers. Fine weather expected for Alata and Popondetta with a top of 30. To the Momasi region, some showers expected in Lae and Wau with a top of 28. 28 degrees as well expected in Madang, Wewak and Vanimo with a shower or two over the next 24 hours. To the New Guinea Islands region, showers expected all across the region in Lorangau, Kavieng, Kokopo, Rabaul, Kimbe and Buka with a top temperature of 28 degrees. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg, all these major centres can expect mostly fine weather over the next 24 hours. To look at the forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours. But first, there is a strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of Papua New Guinea. This includes the Coral Sea, Solomon Sea, Bismarck Sea and Pacific Ocean. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerma, Yule Island, Hood Point to Samurai Island, and with waters of Bogia to Wewak, Aitape, Vanimo and the northern PNG Indonesian border, and with waters of Manus and its western group of islands seas 2 to 2.5 meters. Waters of Finschhafen and western Milne Bay Islands with waters of Finschhafen to Vitias, Dampier Strait, to CSC Island, to Long Island, to Madang, Bogia, and waters of New Island to New Britain and Bougainville seas 2.5 to 3 meters, and waters of Samurai Island to Cape Vogel to Finschhafen seas 1.5 to 2.5 meters. And a look at the ocean forecast. Bismarck Sea, northwesterly winds expected with gusts of 25 to 34 knots. Solomon Sea, winds will be northwest to southwest at 15 to 25 knots. Coral Sea, northwesterly winds expected at around 20 to 25 knots. In the Pacific Ocean, northwest to southwesterly winds at 20 to 25 knots.
The details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And to end the news, a recap of our top stories this evening. Semekere Morata questions the Prime Minister on businesses reserved for nationals. Nautilus Minerals provides update on the Solwara 1 project, and confusion on student registrations at UPNG today. And that's the way it is this Tuesday, the 6th of February 2018. On behalf of the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.